You've had that feeling. Not a thought exactly. It's usually quieter than that. It's a knowing that arrives before logic does. And then the other voice came, louder, more articulate, full of reasons. And you listen to that one instead. Welcome to Daily Power Boost. I'm Shawn Michael. This isn't a podcast about pushing harder or fixing yourself. It's a space to see clearly how your experience is actually being created. Each episode offers a simple shift in understanding, not a tactic, not a hustle, a clearer view of thought, identity, and the patterns you've been living inside. Because when misunderstanding drops, relief rises, energy returns. You move forward with calm, sovereign clarity. This is your Daily Power Boost. Welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Last episode, we talked about the inner critic, how it isn't your enemy, but an old protection system running an outdated threat assessment. Today, we go one level deeper in the same territory. Because once you know the critic exists, being able to identify it in real time, in the middle of a decision, under pressure, that's a different skill entirely. And it's the most important one, because if you can't tell the difference between the voice that protects you and the voice that guides you, every decision becomes a negotiation with the wrong advisor. Here's what most people experience and never have language for. Two voices, both familiar, both fluent in your specific fears and desires. One is the inner critic using your own vocabulary. The other, the genuine intuition, your actual read on a situation, a person, or a direction. And they can sound almost identical, which is exactly why so many capable people override the one that's actually telling the truth. Here's the distinction that took me years to land on cleanly. The inner critic speaks in conclusions. You're not ready. This won't work. Who do you think you are? Flat. Final. No information other than a verdict. Intuition speaks in information. It doesn't tell you that you're not ready. It tells you that something specific feels unresolved. It doesn't say this won't work. It quietly points to the thing you haven't even looked at yet. The critic closes the doors. Intuition opens question. And here's why this matters. When you consistently override your intuition because you can't distinguish it from the critic, you stop trusting your own read on things. It doesn't happen all at once, gradually. Decision by decision, until you find yourself outsourcing your judgment to other people, systems, or frameworks. Because somewhere along the way, the inner signal got too noisy to trust. You think it's a confidence problem, but it's really a discernment problem. And discernment is not a trait you either have or don't. It's a skill. Like every skill, it can be developed. The question is whether you've been given the tools to develop it. Most people haven't. Here's what it feels like when you can actually tell them apart. You stop second guessing your first read. Not because you become reckless or stop thinking things through, but because you've learned to recognize the specific texture of your own knowing. Intuition has a quality of stillness underneath, even when what it's pointing at is uncomfortable. Even when it's telling you something you'd rather not hear. There's a steadiness to it and a lack of urgency. The critic, always urgent, always louder when the stakes feel higher, always the most convincing at exactly the moment you're about to do the thing it fears. When you know the difference, you stop mistaking volume for truth, and you start making decisions from a different place entirely. Instead of the loudest voice, from the clearest one. And then something shifts. You walk into a room and you already know. Not because you worked it out, because you stopped arguing with the part of you that was never confused. The shift, quiet as it is, changes the texture of your whole life. Not dramatically, but with precision. One question to carry with you today. Think of a decision you're currently sitting with, something that feels unresolved, something you keep coming back to, and ask yourself, is the voice steering me right now speaking in verdicts or in information? Don't answer too quickly. I want you to sit with it long enough to feel the difference. The answer will tell you more about whose voice you're actually listening to than you expect. If you've been making decisions from a voice you're not entirely sure is yours, that's exactly the kind of work a clarity call is meant for. We slow it down, locate the signal underneath the noise, and help you start trusting the read you've been overriding. You can find a link in the show notes. Next time, there is a belief quietly running your life right now, and you probably already know which one it is. We're going to name it and figure out what it's actually been costing. With strength and heart, I'm Shawn Michael. Stay close.
Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.